Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and I have a card to share with you today that is like my new best favorite card. I want first to thank Sarah. Sarah, in August, you left me a comment and you said you had seen these cards called a card in a box, and you thought I might want to make one and share it with everybody, and you were so right. I have to say, I made a card that's kind of similar about 20 years ago as my Christmas card, and I'll show it to you in a minute. But it was so complicated and so difficult, and it required rubber bands for tension. I would never have been able to explain how to do it to everybody. So everybody, we need to thank Sarah, and I love when you guys send comments that share things that you think would be fun things to try. Here was the one that I created. This was my Christmas card. I think it was in 1992, believe it or not. And when you open it up, it creates this fun dimensional Christmas tree. And the way that the layers stay open like this, if I turn this, you can maybe see there's a rubber band in there. This is so old, this rubber band. Look it's so loose in tension, it just doesn't hold it. I mean, it has been over 20 years, but still, the one that Sarah showed me is gonna work no matter how long you have it. So let me show you what I created with the help that I got from Sarah and the link to this concept. You want to always just find an envelope that will fit the size for your card. This happens to be what it looks like closed. I'm going to put my message here. When you open it up, look at how cool. Is it a card or is it a box? I think it's both. It's like this box that holds a card. What I usually do, see how it's kind of got the memory of the folds from being in the envelope? I fold it once the other direction, and that will help it really hold its shape and stay open. The one place I'm not folding is along what will be the back. And it's surprisingly easy. What you want to do is you want to start with a piece of cardstock 6 3/4 inches wide and 9.5 inches long. And the first thing you want to do is you want to score at the halfway point, right down the middle, right in half. Then you want to come back, and I've already got my scoring on here, but with black you maybe can't see. So right down the middle you're going to put that first score. Then you want to go back, and every 2 1/4 inches, start at one end and 2 1/4 inches score, score again, another 2 1/4 inches, the final 2 1/4 inches, and what it leaves you with is a 1/2 inch at the end, which is going to actually be the tab that we'll put adhesive on to hold this little card slash box together. Once you have all of these score lines, before we fold them, we're going to do some snipping. So I go back and I'm going to cut on what will be the score lines. So I'm going to start at one side. This will be the top. And I'm hoping if I turn this, you can see the middle score that I have here is where I'm going to stop each of these cuts. I'm going to cut right along my score line until I get to that middle score and then stop. So there is the middle score. Come down to the next one and cut again. You're going to do this every 2 1/4 inches. Now when I get to the last one, I'm going to go ahead and cut on the score line, but I've marked with white so you can see this is actually the portion that I'm going to cut away, just to make it, because you can't always see the score. So I'm cutting on this score line, and if I stop at that middle score, and then instead of cutting square, I'm going to cut a little notch out, which just makes it go together better without any overlapping edges. So you end up with this shape. Now we are going to put adhesive and we're going to fold it together, but if you look at mine, see how mine has these white stripes? It's easiest to add those stripes while it's still flat like this. So in order for these stripes, notice, see how the stripes are going to be on what looks like the inside? In order for that to happen, I need to turn this over. So I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to take my white correction tape, and starting at one end, and I'm just going to leave all of these lines together. I'm going to, I think it's easiest if I turn it and I can see a little better what I'm doing. I'm just going to do a white stripe that goes, and I'm not worried about if it's straight. I actually, if you've watched before, you know that I kind of like things that don't look perfect. So I'm not worried about how far apart my stripes are or if they're perfectly straight. As you can see, they're nowhere near perfectly straight. Sometimes if there's something that looks like it needs a little more white, you can fill it in. I'm going to just keep adding my white stripes until I get down to that middle score line. And my middle score line is right there. So I could do one more, but I don't want to fold on top of this. I don't know how great the correction tape would actually fold. You can see that it's wanting already to break apart where I've cut. So I'm just going to help it by cutting these back apart, or pulling them apart, snipping off any extra. If there are places that you end up where a little bit of white has pulled away, it is helpful to go back and give pressure on every one of those to make sure that they're really stuck. But once you do that, they're nicely stuck. You can see on this example, see how in this corner there's a little spot that I missed? It pulled away. I'm just going to use my white pen to go back and fill in any little kind of messy spots where the white got pulled away. Simple enough to do. That one just needs to be pushed down. Okay, so that's how I got the white stripes on my finished one. You could do it later, but I think it's easiest to do when it's still in one piece like this. Now, I'm going to fold mountain folds on each one of my score lines. And the final score is, as I said, it creates this tab that's going to hold this together as like a box. So I'm going to take my adhesive, place it here. I can see that there's still a little bit of white correction tape sticking off the edge, so I'm going to trim off any of those. And you do want to get that off your scissors because it'll stay nicely, and you might not want it to come back off on the next project that you do. Once, like right there. So I've added my adhesive. All I have to do is close and close, and they'll overlap. This gives me the box. And, you know, it really doesn't matter. It folds all directions, so at some point you need to decide what's going to be the back of the box. It doesn't really matter. I think I'll just make this the back of the box. So if this is going to be the back, all of these sides are going to fold down, but this one is going to stay as the back support. This is giving you the back support. Now we need the little things that are going to go inside the box that will attach the flowers and these other like bursty things to. So what you need to do is you need to cut 3. I used 3. I saw online several variations. And their cards were different sizes to start with, so their variations are different. But I have squares that are 3 1/4 inches, and I have 3 of them. And what I've done is I've come in a 1/2 inch with a score line from both ends. So a score line here, a 1/2 inch, and a score line here. And I'm going to fold them like a Z. So one is going to be a mountain and one is going to be a valley. I did that backwards from what this one was a valley and this one was a mountain. And I'm going to do that with all 3. A mountain and a valley. And I've already done this one. What's going to happen now is these are going to slide into here and they'll be the support. I'm going to attach these so that one of these will line up with the back. I'll go back and glue these in a minute, and it's going to sit like so. One of these will line up with the front, and it will sit inside so it's tucked against the front. And the final one will be right down the middle, like so. So in order to get these so that they'll stay, we need to glue them in. So I'm going to put adhesive on the sides that are going to stick to the box. So let me move this out of the way. If you look at how this slides into the box, this side is going to stick and this side is going to stick. So adhesive here and adhesive here. Basically one on what would be the top and one and what would be the bottom. And then I'm going to refold, slide it in until this edge is flush with this front section. I'll just kind of hold it together. And now before it's stuck, before this side is stuck tightly, I want to see, I'm going to close it. So I want to make sure that when it's closed, it actually will align. So I'm going to close it and open it again. Oops. Now you want to make sure that when you close on those folds that it will fold correctly. So you want to lightly crease it like so and make sure now that it's folded, now make sure that adhesive, and when you open it up, you now have, if you look in there, you have the first section stuck. I'm going to do the same thing with the next one on the back and then with the one in the middle. So I'll go ahead and I'll put adhesive and I'll attach both of those. Okay, so if you look now inside, you can see I've gone ahead and I've attached all three just like you saw me do the first one. And you want to just make sure that you can fold it either direction and everything is nicely attached. So you end up with all of the structure that you need. Now it's just a question of adding in the pieces that are going to explode out of the top of this. I picked something simple that would work for really any theme. So I have these, I call them, they're flowers made with wobbly circles. I like these flowers. I like they're big and bold and kind of modern looking, but they're also super easy to make. You look at them, they're just wobbly circles. Just go to cut a circle and just mess it up a little and you'll have what will be a good size. Just create different shades. And then the inside one, it was easiest when it got that little to just use a circle punch. So I have 3 layers of yellow, 3 layers of pinks and reds, actually a 4th layer, and then some layers of red and orange. And I'm going to turn it over because some of these are going to stick way out of the box. Instead of just attaching a stem, I wanted this whole support. So this is a little bit of a thin cardstock that's attached. This is the way I did this one, and the reason that this one doesn't have a support is because this one is going to be attached to the back. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to put adhesive, I'll move this out of the way, on, and remember I say this every time, you're going to do more adhesive than this. This one, not the rest, don't go ahead and do all the rest of the flowers, but this one is going to have adhesive all the way down the flower because it's going to, it just came off, it's going to stick to the back of the box, because that's a layer in there as well. So if I say, all right, this is going to sit in the back, and I want to make sure that I don't go up over, get my fingers in there, and go ahead and notice that this sticks out. That's dictating that when I close the box, I'm going to need to close it this way so that it doesn't stick out the edge. If I close it this way, I have this much sticking out. So I've now, with my first placement, I've now directed, up until now I had my choice, but now I need to make sure that everything I put in there works when I close the box this way. So now it's a question of just adding in other layers, and I'm only going to just do a little bit so you get the idea. But if I take the yellow and if I attach just the base of the yellow, I'm going to set it, and before I press hard, I'm going to see where could I place this and still have it not peek out. So that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and press down, and that is going to give me the placement of this first flower. If I want to stick in one of these streamers, I do the same thing. I put adhesive, and I'm going to attach this into one of those 3 1/4 inch squares that are inside. But when I set it inside, I just lightly touch it. Before I figure out where it's going to go, I have to fold my card and see. That sticks out a little too much. So I'm going to flip that up a little, try it again. Well, that's actually, I don't need it quite that high. About right there is good. So I'm going to go ahead and press. You see how I've started to add the layers, and then I would do the same thing. I would just, with the next layer, I would now add, I'll go ahead and I'll add, what the heck, he's already made up. Might as well stick him in too. I'm going to stick it into this middle section. I'm going to make sure when I close the card that he doesn't stick out anywhere, and then push. You can see how easily this starts to go together. It is not, for the wow impact that you get, it is not very difficult. If I go back then and show you the completed one with all of the little streamers and lots of different flowers, I've even got a few leaves in there. You can see with all the flowers and all the streamers inside, it does need to fold closed. And I have a little bit sticking out just because my envelope, if you look at my envelope, it was big enough that I could put that in there. On the screen, we'll put the dimensions of the envelope. I'm pretty sure it's an A7, but I'll put the dimensions up there. I wanted to show you, if you like this idea, this could be themed. If you want to make it even your Christmas card, you could. Here is a different birthday theme, and here I've got balloons and a message to a friend of mine. And when I open it up, instead of having it open with the back solid and the three sides flipping down, I tilted it and had it open this way with all four sides flipping down. And instead of a score mark that was straight, my score mark in the middle was angled in order to get what looks like a birthday cake inside the card. And I did the same idea with a smaller size, but here's one that could be turned into a Christmas card. And when you look, you can see that this first folded tree is actually stuck to the card itself on the inside. Lots of variations and things to play with. And you know what, Sarah? I can't thank you enough for suggesting how to make this style of card. I plan on making lots of them for all different occasions.